All right, folks, welcome back to another Fantasy Tour de France video. Today I'm going to be recapping stage 12 from today and looking ahead to stage 13 tomorrow, which is the second individual time trial, this one being a mountain time trial. So today's stage was the first of the really big mountain days. It was the first mountaintop finish up the Hautacam with a couple climbs beforehand, and there was a lot of action. So Tadej Pogacar won the stage. Notably, he took 2 minutes 10 on Jonas Vingegaard, which I think was, a little bit more than everyone, probably Visma themselves, expected. Notably, Florian Lipowitz was almost catching Jonas Vingegaard by the end, so he finished just 13 seconds behind Vingegaard. So he certainly put his name in the hat for the third best climber in the race. It's notable also that the person who has that status sort of by default, Remco Evenepoel, he lost time today. So he was down in seventh. He was dropped early on the first climb, the first major climb of the day, and had to really do a time trial with, one or two teammates to help him until the finish. And so he put in a lot of extra work. He had to pull himself through the valley, whereas all the other leaders got a free ride from the UAE team. So Remco had a really tough day. He just said his legs weren't there, and he's hoping that he bounces back for tomorrow. Pog was clearly the strongest, not too much to say there, but he didn't have his strongest ever performance. Obviously, it was still incredibly strong, but not quite his best. The number crunchers are coming up with 6.74 watts per kilo over 35 minutes. So pretty good, but not all-time best. He didn't even have the best performance on the Hautacam. That's still remains with, I think, Bjarne Riis from 1999 or something like that. Vingegaard is still the second best. He put in an effort of 6.29 watts per kilogram for a little bit more, like 37 minutes. The rest of the big guys, which, it's a bunch of young guys that we have nipping at the heels. Evenepoel, Onley, Vauquelin, Lipowitz, they're all eligible for the white jersey, the youth jersey. And they all put in an effort of about 6 watts per kilogram. These guys looked really good. Notably, we didn't really expect Vauquelin to still be up here after today's stage. So really impressive step up that he's taken. Tobias Johannesson, Onley looked great as well. Matteo Jorgensen had a really bad day. He lost 10 minutes 25 to Pogacar, and he was dropping early on the first climb as well. Healy lost yellow today. He lost 13 minutes 38 to Pogacar, but we kind of expected that to happen. So if we look at the yellow jersey competition, Healy drops all the way down to 11th position at 13:19. I'm a little bit disappointed in this because it might be close enough that EF thinks it's still worth having Ben fight for a top 10, which I really hoped would not happen. I was hoping that he would either drop all the way down to 20th or something like that and be able to purely go for stages again, or he would remain a little bit higher up in the standings and we could still get good jersey points from him every day. So he's on my team. I'm still going to hold him, but he's sort of in this middle ground where tomorrow's performance will kind of dictate what he's trying to do. If he puts in a really hard effort in the TT, that means he's trying to go for top 10. And if he just recuperates and rolls it in, that means that he's going to be dropping back and shooting for stages when he has the opportunity. I also just want to jump backwards. Bruno Armorai was in the breakaway all day. It was a huge breakaway, and he was the last of the break, and he finished just over, under 11 minutes down, but really impressive climb from him, especially considering he's not really a pure climber. He's more of a TT guy, so I don't think anyone expected him to be the star of the breakaway today, but chapeau to him. Looking over at withdrawals, we did have DNS this morning. Case Bowl didn't start, so that's a blow for the Astana team. Looking over at the fantasy points for the day, there's not too much to say about the folks at top. They won the stage, but I do want to call out this big column right here. You can see that there were an outrageous number of points awarded today because the breakaway was so big. The breakaway points, remember, are just 1 point for each kilometer that you're in the front group, and the front group was like 50 plus riders for most of the day. So tons and tons of riders got 100 plus points, which is kind of crazy when you think about the sum of this column, 5,960, is pretty much 2/3 of the overall points that were awarded for the day. So the points that were awarded for stage finish positions all the way down to 100th position only totaled up to 1529. The points for all of the jerseys combined, every position in every jersey competition, was just 1,330. And yet a single breakaway earns almost 6,000 points. Crazy. But that's what the game's all about these days. And that's why it's so important to have a bunch of these climbers who are going to be active in these next few mountain stages and are going to be racking up 100 points on each stage that they're in the break. If we look down at the jersey points that were earned today, Florian Lipowitz jumped up a bit. So he is now in third place behind Jonas and Tade in terms of daily jersey points earned per day. Tade's up to 106, holding 2 jerseys in second place and a third. But Lipowitz is actually the second most efficient. So if we sort by the rank of points per cost earned each day, Tade's still on top, but Florian Lipowitz is right behind him. So those of you who made a bet on Lipowitz yesterday, which was a little bit against my recommendation, congrats, because he seems to be in a really good spot right now. And it'll be interesting to see after the time trial tomorrow, is he still up there with Evenepoel, or does he lose enough time that Evenepoel is going to be able to maintain his white jersey through the mountains? I don't, obviously we won't know that tomorrow, but I think we'll have a good indication of what that's going to look like after we see the gaps between him and Remco in the TT tomorrow. So looking ahead to the rest of the race, obviously tomorrow is the mountain time trial. It's a really pivotal stage in this year's Tour de France. But beyond that, we have still 4 pure mountain stages. So stage 14, 16, 18, and 19. So, and these hilly stages, this one has a big Cat2 climb in it as well. So we're going to have a lot of climbing still in the remainder of this Tour de France. And that's why most people's fantasy teams should be full of climbers at this point. It's possible that some people can afford to swap in a sprinter for stage 17, and we're going to have to do the math when we get to stage 20 and 21. But most people will just be accepting they're not going to have a sprinter for stage 17 and should be trying to bolster their team with as many sprinters or climbers rather as they can for these next 7 stages. Looking at stage 13 itself, it's pretty short. It's only 10.9 kilometers, but it's all uphill and it's not super regular. So there is a pretty steep 1 kilometer or so pitch of 13% at the end. So it gets pretty steep. And this is going to make the calculation of the finisher time really difficult because there's this rolling beginning part, which is likely to be really fast. And then there's a climb that gets pretty steep and has some variability in its gradient. So really difficult for us to predict the time. As for the favorites, if we look at the bookies, they're all in agreement that Tadej Pogačar is the strong favorite. So if you don't have Pogačar on your team by this point, you got to pick him up. And certainly everyone should be doubling up points for Tadej by assigning him as the stage winner bonus for tomorrow. Jonas Vingegaard's still in second, but dropping a little bit. And noteworthy that Florian Lipowitz, after his performance today, leapfrogged Remco as the third favorite for tomorrow's stage. Remco is known as a time trialist, multi-world champion, Olympic champion, etc. But just remember, this is not a normal time trial. This is a mountain climb where almost the entire duration of the time trial is going to be climbing up a mountain. So when you're looking at favorites, you can't just look at the pure time trial experts. You have to look at people's climbing performance. And so you might think that, for example, someone like Pablo Castrillo, who actually I like for tomorrow, you might think because he had a pretty good time trial earlier in the tour for the stage 5 flat time trial and he's a climber, well, he should be doing better on this one, right? It might actually be the opposite, because not only is he a good climber, but so many other people who didn't do well in the first time trial are good climbers, and many of those people are going to be leapfrogging him in the standings. So don't just look at who had a good stage 5 performance, look at who had a good stage 12 performance. That's a much better indicator of who's going to do well tomorrow. So with that in mind, in addition to your normal decisions that you have to make every day, reminder that if you scroll all the way to the bottom of your team, the My Team tab within the fantasy game, there's this slider here for you to guess what you expect the finishing time will be for the winner of tomorrow's individual time trial. We've got a spreadsheet that we've been playing with and keeping up to date with past Grand Tours from recent years. And normally what we like to do is just look at the speed of the winner of previous time trials and sort of compare the profile of those previous time trials and find one that's pretty similar to what we've got. It's how we were able to guess very, very accurately what the finishing time would be for Remco on stage 5. The problem is that there has been no pure mountain time trial in recent years in the Tour de France. And so some folks in the Discord server that had a lot more time and are than I did today, and also are a lot smarter than me, did a bunch of number crunching. There's certain calculators you can use that are publicly available out on the internet where you plug in estimations for weight, power, CDA, aerodynamics, etc. Wind even I think is factored into that, and it'll plug out what it thinks the performance will look like. And in fact, some people were even using ChatGPT to try to figure out what is a good estimate. But because I wasn't really participating too closely in those efforts, I can't really explain to you all the math. But what I can tell you is that the general consensus is that somewhere between 22 minutes and 23 minutes is a good estimate, with a few people that are close to this sharing that their guess is going to be 22 minutes and 10 seconds. So given that I didn't have more or better information than the collective knowledge of our Discord server, I'm going with this same exact guess. So I've selected 22 minutes and 10 seconds as my guess here. Now, obviously, we're not promising anything, but I think if you have no clue what to do here, if you just copy this, you're not going to be too far off. So just real quick, some strategy advice. I'm not making any moves today. I'm going to put the stage winner bonus on Pogacar. Everyone should do that. It makes no sense to not do that. Even if you're trying to differentiate yourself and come from behind, no one's going to beat Pogacar tomorrow unless something crazy happens. Also, I've been getting still so many questions about, should I trade this climber for that climber or this climber for that climber? My answer is no right now. Still no. Even if you have someone who wasn't in the real front of the race today, you can't afford to spend trades. I'm pretty comfortable with 4 trades remaining with these 200 credits, but I still have people on my team that I'd love to get rid of, like Vercher and perhaps Abrahamson. I'd love if he was a climber instead, but I'm not going to be spending my trades here because at this point in the race, I'm recommending as a default, there's exceptions here, but as a default, I'm recommending to everyone, don't waste trades swapping similar riders. You're only going to get marginal improvement swapping, the 7th best climber in the race for the 9th best climber, or the 21st best climber for the 29th best climber, or even the 10th best climber to the 20th best climber. You're not going to get that much different expected value for those trades. Whereas if you still have a sprinter and you trade them out for a climber, there's huge expected value for that type of trade. And those sort of compositional changes are the only ones that you should be really looking to make, unless there's some unique situation that you have on your team with your team composition. So by that, I mean, obviously, if you didn't take my advice the other day and pick up the 3 big leaders, it is worth picking up a 3rd leader for tomorrow. Not going to tell you exactly who that should be because it's not super clear. I have Remco. I'm pretty happy with him, even though he didn't show the best legs today. Certainly, even Vauquelin looked better than him, but especially Onley and Johannesson and Lipowitz. They all looked better than Remco today. But again, because I don't want to make a non-compositional change, I'm not going to trade a like for a like when I only have 4 trades left. So I'm really going to keep beating this dead horse until everyone understands. If you're asking me, should I make this trade for that trade? The answer is yes, only if you have ample trades left in your bank and you are making a compositional change, which is you're getting rid of a sprinter for a climber or something like that. And then finally, I think that it's worth reminding people in general that there's 2 reasons why we want to keep, well, really 3 reasons we want to keep credits in the bank at this point for future trades. One, the first one, the most obvious one, anyone could crash. Pogacar could crash in recon tomorrow and not even start the stage. And we're going to need to swap him out for someone else. We can't afford to have 27 stars tied up on a rider that's crashed out. That's the obvious one. The second one is, if we look at the profile ahead, there are some sprint stages towards the end. And if you have an excess of trades available to you, it may be worthwhile, let's say after stage 16, to trade one of your big leaders for Jonathan Milan and hope that he wins stage 17, and then trade him back after stage 17 for a different big leader. And that allows you to use two trades to get a bunch of really guaranteed points, but also it allows you to swap your third leader, whoever's the leader that you're least happy with after stage 16, sort of for free, because you're making the trade to pick up a sprinter. But when you undo that trade, you don't need to pick up the same person that you sold. So that's, for example, a really valuable use of excess trades in the future. And that's one of the reasons why you want to keep them. But the final reason is that if you look at the game rules on stage 21, all of the bonus points are multiplied by 3, with exception of the super combatif. So that means all of the points you get for a rider's standing in any of the jersey competitions, they get multiplied by 3. And so I've played this game every year since it first came out, and I have never gone into stage 21 with the same team that I had in stage 20. That last day, you always want to do the math for all the jersey competitions because most of them are pretty locked up at that point, and you can just mathematically build the ideal team that is accessible to you with your trades remaining. So I'm certainly hoping and expecting that my credits will remain at 100 up until the last stage, maybe 2 stages, depending on what that hilly stage looks like, so that I can make the perfect team for the very end. And that's a very valuable use of credits. All right, that's all I got for today. Good luck with your choices tonight, tomorrow morning, whenever you watch this, and looking forward to seeing what happens in the time trial tomorrow. Take care. Bye.